Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to join us. Before we get started, we are just waiting for a few more people to join. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jen, and with me today is Catherine. We both work here at the SATC and work closely with ATDW. So today's workshop is going to look at how you can optimise your listing. We presume that you are here because you are engaged and you're wanting to know how to learn more, how to leverage the functionalities within ATDW, and how you can gain some more presence on southaustralia.com. Sorry. All right, so what we're going to look at today is, we'll just give us one moment, sorry. All right, so what we're going to look at today is your ATDW listings in a little bit more of depth, and look at the functionalities within ATDW. So how you can look at services, how you can look at deals and offers, and the kind of information that you can use to really enhance your listing to ensure that you are reaching the right customers at the right time. Whilst we just wait for a few more people to join, I will just let you know that we do have a Q&A in your screens. So if you do have any questions, feel free to write them throughout the session, and we will be replying and responding to those as we continue to go through. All right. Cool. Cool. Welcome to those that have just joined. All right, as I've mentioned, okay, so what is the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse? What I found in having conversations with a lot of people is that the ATDW often gets popped on the priority list, and they know that it's important, but it's really challenging to understand where and why and how, and the impact that it can have. So the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse was established because the states and territories across Australia got together to create a data warehouse that housed all of the tourism operators across the nation. This information is then distributed throughout websites such as southaustralia.com, tourism.com, and then regional websites as well. What it is and why it is a benefit to you is it enables you to have one point of information, so one location where you can log in and create your listings. Catherine will be going through a little bit more information on how to create your listings and what categories you can list in, but the information in there allows you to have one login point, and then it is distributed to up to 260 websites across the nation. So what that enables you to do is amplify your efforts. So by spending 20 to 30 minutes on your listing today or any day will then mean that your efforts are then amplified, multiplied to your return on investment. Best of all, because you are a tourism operator in South Australia, this is completely free to you. Other states and territories do have costs involved, but what we want to see is all of our operators jumping on board and gaining as much exposure as they possibly can. All right, we are going to, in a moment, have a little bit of a look at how you can create your listing and then how you can optimize that. All right, so we've touched on this a little bit in terms of what the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse is. All right, it is a national platform that distributes content across multiple different websites. As I've mentioned, it is free to operators, and 10, 15, 20 minutes of your time can be amplified across all of those multiple websites through one touch point, which is just your login. And we recommend that as soon as you are updating your website or making sure that your current status of business is reflected on your own website, that those changes are then also made on your ATDW listing. It is up to businesses to maintain their listings, and you do need to log in at least once every 12 months. So we do recommend that even if you don't have any changes, jump in, have a look, just to make sure that it is reflecting how your business is currently working. We found that this is particularly important in times of COVID, in times of bushfires, where we've seen so much change in businesses and opening hours and day-to-day operations that people are searching when they're on the way to a location or when they're planning their trips, and having this information correct is so very, very important in making sure that the customers are then arriving at your door when you are open and when you are operational. All right, cool. So having your ATDW listing, for us, you are our products. So here at the SATC, we do not have any tangible products that we sell to our audiences. You are those products. So the way that we measure that internally here is having a KPI of driving leads directly to tourism operators and businesses such as yourselves. The way that we track this is through different click outs to your website. So ATW is commission free, we do not take any commission, and those leads that we're driving to you are qualified. The way we track this is through phone calls, emails, website clicks, and then also book outs, click outs to the book now button. And then recently some functionality also allowed for deals and offers, which is another click out directly through to your website. So people have gone through the process, they're interested, they're engaged, and they're wanting to know how they can learn more information about you and your business and how to book with you. And they're clicking out from our website, going directly to yours, hopefully then to make a booking with yourself. So what we're hoping is by going through this and as a result of today is that you're already here, you've already accepted that you want to engage and you are committed, and hopefully after this session you will take about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour to look and really activate all of the things that we're going through today. Up on the screen at the moment are some metrics from last financial year. Really excited to let you know that we have already hit over 2.5 million leads direct to operators. So what we're trying to do is grow the pie and what is available, and then share that directly on to operators such as yourself. So with the information that we're going to provide you in today's workshop in looking at how to optimize your listing and taking the opportunity at the end of this workshop to really reflect and kind of action what you've learned straight away, will help grow your portion of the pie that we have in terms of driving leads directly to you. So I'm going to hand over to Catherine now, and she's going to look at how you can get started and how you can look at optimizing your listing.
All right, hello everyone. So as Jen said, I'm Catherine. So we're going to have a bit of a more, I guess, hands-on little bit of a section with the ATDW and really take you through some different elements that will help get your listings optimized. So I'm going to start off just by touching on 3 very key websites that are a point of resource that you should all be aware of. So hopefully you are. So we've got the ATDW website, which is obviously the core one here that we're talking about today, but then you've also got southaustralia.com and the SATC's corporate website. So these 3 places all do serve different benefits in regard to how you can utilize them to optimize your listing. So obviously starting off with the ATDW, it's the one we'll touch on a bit more today, and it's where you create and maintain your information. For southaustralia.com, we do often say that this is a really great referral point for you to look at your information and how it's actually being pulled onto various different distributor websites. So often websites use pre-formatted templates, and that's why some guidelines that we'll touch on later today as well are really important to consider, because that will actually let you know how your photos are being pulled onto websites and whether they pixelate or not, or how your text actually formats as well. Lastly is the corporate website. So SATC, we have undergone a bit of a review, and we are still continuing a review of a lot of our resources. This particular web page has always had resources on there, and as I said, we're looking at really elaborating a little bit more on some different ways that you can optimize them. What are some great tips? What are some step-by-steps for each of the different types of categories that the ATDW have? So please do keep an eye out over the coming months as this web page will be changing and progressing further for you to really use as a great resource there. So I did very quickly mention there the term categories. So everyone here will know how difficult it can be to figure out which category your tourism offering is often operating in. So there are various different categories that you can list in the ATDW. The major ones of reference are the accommodation, event, food and drink, hire and tour. We find that these are generally what you are operating in. However, there are also the attraction, general service and transports categories too. There are 3 for visitor information centres only. So this is for any visitor information centres that have actually requested permission to essentially do this specific information, being destination information, information services and journeys. The reason why these permissions are only given to visitor information centres is because of the longevity of that ongoing maintenance of them, which is not given to businesses. So in regard to some of these categories, we do often get asked around 3 particular categories and the confusion of their overlapping similarities. So we did just want to spend a quick minute just overviewing these for you. So the attraction, the tour and the event categories are very similar in regard to information that they actually distribute. However, we do find that there are some key differences that can really help you optimize your tourism offering. So to start with, in regard to if you're, say you are hosting an event or a experience type thing that's limited, so it's not often. If your event or experience is a single occurrence over a limited period of time, it can go in either the tour or the event category. However, if you do have a regular occurring event and it's on an ongoing occurrence, then it's actually recommended to be put in the attraction or the tour experiences. So one particular event that comes to mind that's very important to differentiate is bingos or trivia nights. If that is happening on a week-to-week basis and it's predictable that it will be there, then it's actually recommended to go in that attraction category because this will help you with the promotion of it. Whereas I guess alternatively, if your bingo event was a once-off event for a fundraising, then that in that type of scenario where it's not a regular occurring evening, then it may go in the event. Additionally, you've also got the multiple sub-products or experiences. So a common thing with attractions and places with tours. So when you do have, I guess, that experience product that's also got many sub-experiences within it, it is recommended to be in that tour and experiences category. So that's another good one just to keep in mind. If you do have any confusion about these, please do reach out to us. We have our contact details at the end. They're also on the corporate website. So just get in contact if you're confused and we can continue to elaborate further. Now, for the fun part, so your ATDW listing. I'm going to switch screens a little bit. I've got some other screens to show you actually in the ATDW. So we're going to touch on a few key points, which is creating a listing, some optimization tips, distribution onto websites, additional functionalities, and then also, as Jen mentioned, using that deals and offers function as well. So if you do have multiple screens in front of you, we do highly encourage you to log into your ATDW listing, get it up in front of you. You can follow along, look at your own information as we talk this through. However, you will be able to ask us further questions as well, or we can always distribute this information to you afterwards if you do need it. So I'm just going to bring over my lovely other web page that I've got open. So in regard to the ATDW, we are just going to start off with the login screen. So if in case there is anyone here that is not currently registered or doesn't have an account with the ATDW, this is obviously where you do need to go, and you will need to click on the register now button. If you do have an account, you obviously go to the login, but I will just quickly touch on the registration process. So if you are new to the ATDW, you don't currently have an account, you can just click the register now. This will open up a new tab, and then you'll register as a tourism operator. So you'll just click on there, go through the continue, and then there is some more prompts that you can fill out. We do often have a question around a business ABN. It is not compulsory to have a business ABN to register for the ATDW. So if you do not have one, you can skip that field and continue on with the rest. I will quickly switch back to the ATDW. So if you do have a pre-existing account, or you are aware that your business, so for example, if you have just purchased a business and you're aware that that business has an ATDW account, but you're not sure what the logins are, again, you can get back in contact with us and we can assist you in getting access to your ATDW account so that you don't have to start from scratch, or so that you don't accidentally create multiple logins to the same ATDW account. So when you do log in, you'll be directed to your ATDW dashboard. So this is our very lovely mock account that we've created just to help show you today. I will just touch on a little bit around the navigation of the ATDW dashboard. Sometimes people are unaware that you can actually add new users. So on the side here is an account option. You can click on that and you will be able to view all of the user access to your ATDW. So please do, if you have employees that you're wanting to have access to it, to make those updates, have them log in, and then create a user account so that they can log in. This is really great to have individual logins for us from an SATC perspective, as we do review your ATDW listing. So if we do ever think that there's a need to clarify some information, we know the best person to actually go back to, because we can see that history as to which user from your account has made those edits. So that's a really great resource to actually have admin-wise as well. In regard to creating a new listing, so if you do need to create a listing, you've got the Add New Listing button here. So I will quickly speak you through this option. So when you do go into that, you've got the Choose a Listing category, which can be overwhelming, as we said, with all the different categories to identify which one you are. The ATDW does have some guidelines here. So I'm going to quickly open them just to show you what they look like. But you can scroll down through the ATDW guidelines, which they have hyperlinked, and you'll actually be able to see their definitions of categories for accommodation, attraction, events, and so on. And then they've got little subcategories. We will touch on the subcategories a little bit later, as these are really important for correctly identifying what your subcategory is for how that communicates onto websites. So I will go back to the ATDW now. What I'm going to do is I am just going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm actually going to take us through the updating access method. So if you do have a current listing that you are wanting to update, there is the corresponding update button for that listing. So each listing does have one. So we can click on update. For example, we will step through a tour as an example, as they are quite a common product that we have, and they've got a lot of functionalities in them. So we'll just use this as a bit of an information source. So we will navigate through some of these fields reasonably quick, as most of them you should be all fairly across, but I will just point out some really key navigation methods for you. So on the side here, you've got your orange menu. This is really great if you want to quickly create any shortcuts to specific sections. So if you just want to update your photos, you can click your photos and go straight to there. On the right hand side here, there is a bit of an information box. If you can't see this on yours, it's most likely because of the screen size that you're viewing in is too small. So if you expand that screen size to the full screen, it should pop up. But this is really great for some key points and guidances for the different sections. So you'll see these names corresponding to the sections. But then also an example, so the ATDW has actually provided some best practice examples that they've seen around Australia. So this is a really great resource to read through to get an idea as to how some information can flow one onto the other. So in regard to your descriptions, do make sure that they obviously highlight really key information there and are really enticing. And as I said, just following those guidances. So you can step through each of your sections one by one and click on to the next one. So you've got your location address. If this location is not correct for your business, you can always click the define another address and populate the correct one there. Your contact details, we will quickly state that it is really important to make sure that the contact details you enter here are the contact details that the consumer will be using to contact you. So whether that's for booking or whether that's for more information. So these are not your personal contact details, as well as your websites, making sure that you've got a nice generic website to more information on your tourism product, but then also if you have specific booking links, adding that specific booking links to create that direct channel straight to where consumers can book. It helps with the consumer journey and also it helps you create that lead more effectively. Photos. So photos is a fun one. So as I said before, you've got a guidance section with some requirements. We will step through photos for just a minute. I'm going to bring up some photos that we actually have in a SATC as part of our media gallery. So in regard to photos, it's really important that you actually select a really high quality, great photo that's representative of your tourism product. So I'm just going to bring over my lovely little practice photo box for a second. So in regard to photos, it's important to kind of consider what your photo is that you want and then have a look. So there is a requirement that photos are not portrait. So we don't want to be selecting any portrait photos. This can cause pixelation when it actually goes onto websites. So you want to make sure that it's something nice, landscape and of good quality. So for example, you can just drag and drop. So this photo that I've just selected, it does not meet those minimum requirements of photo size. So I'm going to have to resize this image. Resizing images is something that you can do yourself. It's quite easy. I'm going to show you very briefly how we do it via Paint. So your Paint is a fairly generic program that a lot of laptops come with. So we just go, we just right click on the photo that we want to resize. We click the edit button. This automatically loads up in Paint for us. So the image comes up. There's a resize option here. So we click on here, we click the pixels. You can then see the pixels, and the pixels is actually what's stated on the side here. So we just need to make sure that it is the correct number, the minimum numbers. So we've got the correct ones there. We go OK, we save, and then we should be able to exit that and drag it in now. It's also important to add in any alternative text. So this is a really key element for obviously those additional functionalities around websites. So if we say surfing underwater, because that's kind of a description around what's happening in that photo. Add in any copyright details or photographer who you need to add in. I won't be doing it in this example because we're not actually saving or publishing it, but it is important that you add in those copyright and photographer details to protect your listing as well. As I mentioned, they are the minimum requirements on the side there too. So when you do add in your photos, you can actually rearrange them to different sides as well. Our photo is not loading at the moment, but you did see that one come up. So this little star here, that actually indicates what your hero image is within that shot. Any photos in order, so you can add up to 10. Photos, when they're pulled onto websites, they go in selection from first to last. So it's really important to make sure that whatever hero shot, whatever one that's perfectly representing your product offering is that first photo there. So that's a little bit on photos. We will actually look at creating some resources that deep dive a little bit more into this for you. But hopefully that did just elaborate a little bit more. If you do have any more questions, please do just pop them in the Q&A. In regard to most of the other ones, I won't talk around these too much as a lot of them are tick boxes. They're just really good for you to look through. You can click the summary button, which takes you back to your main summary page. So in your main summary page here, you can scroll down, review all of your information and make sure everything is of a really great quality. If you do need to edit anything because you've seen a typo, you can just click the pencil icon there and then that will take you back into that listing for you to make those edits, and then you can go back to the summary to further review again. It's really recommended to give a good once over before you do click the send for review button. What we are going to do very quickly is actually show you a best practice tour operator that we've recently identified. So the reason why we've recently identified them as a best practice is because they've got some really great high quality images in here. They show the tourism attraction happening in action. It immerses that consumer into the experience. They can envision themselves doing it. There's plenty of contact details with all of their different methods, their website. They've got a book now button. They've added lots of social media links there that they can actually, consumers can go and find them and see any tags that other visitors have also tagged them in, which is really important for today's consumers. They're always looking for that virtual form of word of mouth. So in regard to overview, there's lots of really great detail to describe that generalized tour. They've added in various different features, including the different types of activities, just in case there is a consumer wanting that more information. And then down the bottom, they've actually added in different tour types. So this is what we're going to touch on now, is the way that we can add in different tour types. For each tour type that they've done, they've also added in a nice amount of information to detail this in script as well as multiple images to really demonstrate that specific individual tour. So I'm going to switch back to our ATDW. That's not my correct listing. Nor is that. There we are. So I'm going to switch back to the ATDW and talk you through the tour types. So this particular functionality of the add tour type, it's actually an add service type listing. So this is available on only 4 different ATDW listings, which is the hire category, the tour category, the transport category, and also the accommodation category. So the reasons why these are available there is because these particular categories often have a singular business brand and then sub experiences or sub services within that. So for example, a tour category might have a walking trail tour, but then also have a kayaking tour. For accommodation, they might have some accommodation types where there's a 4-bed cabin, a 6-bed villa, and then a 8-bed house. So they can detail these separately just to help provide that additional information for the consumer. So the way you do this is by adding a tour. This will create a new add service type listing. You will provide your information in here. I'm going to switch to our example one. So we have set up a couple. So you switch here, you enter all your details, and it's similar to how we did with the ATDW listing. You just keep on clicking the next steps and going through. In regard to tour types, so this is looking at those little subcategories that I did previously mention with the ATDW guidelines. So once you do start to add service types, or if you're doing your ATDW listing, you will want to make sure that you select the correct type of subcategory. These subcategories, it's important to try to keep it to your most primary subcategory because it impacts the way that your information is filtered or it's selected to go onto websites. So I'm going to just show you an example of the tour, which is on your screen right now, but then we've also got an example of an event listing. So in the event listing, this will appear in a drop-down box in that main one. So there's lots of different options for types of events. And what this does is it actually does have an impact in the way that your information is filtered or it is selected to go onto websites. So I'm going to jump onto southaustralia.com for a quick little example. So this is just one very simple example of how your information is filtered. I could probably elaborate on a lot of different examples for lots of different types of websites because there's obviously, 250 plus websites that pull information from the ATDW, but we're just going to keep it simple for today. So in regard to our what's on page, we've got a big grid of all available events in South Australia down the bottom. You can go onto all subcategories and actually select by specific type of events. So if we're specifically looking for a food and wine event, we can refine it down to just the 135 results that are in there. So we can refine it down that way. Similar with attractions. So attractions also have subcategories depending on the type of attraction it is. So if I'm looking for a gallery or a museum to go and visit, we can refine down to just the gallery and museum attractions. So that is just a very, very quick, very brief example. You will find that some websites can actually set up metrics to allow for specific types of tours or attractions to be displayed on their website. So that's why it's really important to actually identify. I'm in the wrong listing again. It's too many tabs open. Why it's so important to identify which one you are looking towards. Cool. So what I'll just touch on as well is, because we do often get the question as to, I've accidentally added a service type. How do I remove that service type? I can't find the way to delete that. So I'm going to quickly touch you through that because, yes, we agree it can be a little bit confusing when you're not sure how to do it. So my most simplest way that I find to do it is to actually go back to that main summary page. So if you click on the summary page while you're in a tour service, you actually be directed to the summary overview of that tour service, which is not quite where you want to go. So you want to go back to the main summary page. So if you go to your orange menu, at the very top of there, you do have your main listing that you can click on, expand down. So this is your main primary ATDW listing that you're in. So I always click on the name and description. This just brings us back to that first page that we've gone to, and then you can then click the summary, and that will take you back to that main overview. So if you are looking at deleting one of your service types, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom, see all of your different service types. You can see the one that, oops, accidentally added that, I want to delete it, or in the case that maybe that particular service is no longer operating, that we've, we've sold all of our kayaks and we no longer do the kayaks side of it, or something like that. So you can just click the trash can icon and then delete that service, and then that should disappear. So that is how you do that one. The very, very final thing that I'm going to touch on before we hand it back to Jen to finish us off is the add a deal and offer functionality. So down here in your orange side menu, you've got an add deal and offer. So the add deal and offer functionality is a really great functionality to act as an additional promotion tool for you to use. So you can create any special offers or limited deals in here. It will be associated to this listing on any websites which have set up the correct metrics to pull in that information. For southaustralia.com, we do have 3 different places, so we do have up to 3 different places that additional promotion will be seen. So it will definitely be seen on your individual product pages. So this appears just directly underneath your description of your experience on that main listing page. There, we do have a holiday deal and offers web page at the moment. So we've got a featured section for any of those really big and current deals and offers, as well as a view all deals and offers page for consumers to go, scroll, and have a look at what's happening in the region when they're visiting. We do lastly have a third one that we're just in a trial period of at the moment. So this is the destination specific deals and offers. The reason why we're just in a trial period is because the deals and offers functionality is quite new and we need to gauge what that operator uptake is with it. So the more operators that look at using this functionality will allow us to have more types of ways that we can promote your product. So the more that you guys use it, the increased likelihood that we may be able to look at actually rolling out some other destination deals and offer pages as well. So in regard to step-by-step instructions, I didn't really touch too much in the ATDW on that, but that's because on our corporate website we do have a bit of a help sheet on there that you can actually refer to. So that will detail it in a little bit more depth and help you with what type of information is really great to include to help you optimize that. So that is a brief overview of the deals and offers section there. So I will hand back to Jen in a moment to talk around the SATC brand pillars, and then we'll look at wrapping up.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you to everyone who submitted your questions throughout that time. There were some really interesting ones around images and the amount of times that you have to send your listing through for approval. So I'll just touch on that quickly. We do recommend that you make all of your changes and your updates in the one time. So rather than making an individual change and then sending that for review, by clicking that review button, what that does is it actually comes through to some staff members for approval. Once that approval has taken place, it will send through a communication email directly through to you. And then those updates will then flow through onto the distributor websites. So we recommend making all of the applicable changes and updates that you can in one time, and then sending that for review rather than that individual process. So if you want to update your description, you want to update your images, or maybe you've changed your opening hours, you would make all of those changes at the one time before sending it through. We will be sending out a follow-up email post this session as well. That will have our contact details, because we did have a few people asking where the best resources are, and I know we've touched on it, but we will send that through in an email as well if you didn't quite catch that. All right, what I'm going to cover off is our SATC brand pillars. So now that you have your ATW listings, you know how to optimize them. How can you leverage the work that we are doing here? So our brand pillars, we have 5, and I will, cool. So we do have 5 brand pillars, but just taking a step back, we really love when operators are engaged and they want to know what is happening. So your job is to make sure that your businesses are ready to go and they're ready to accept visitation. And like I said, you guys are our products. We are pushing you and we are promoting you. And that is to 3 markets: intrastate, interstate, and then international. Obviously, with borders closed at the moment, that is super challenging. But what we need to be prepared for is when the borders do open and we can start welcoming people back. I know a lot of people are really, really excited and also nervous for that. But when they come back, we do need to be prepared. So at the moment, our biggest markets are intrastate and interstate. We know that interstate markets spend a larger dollar than intrastate, but intrastate market is currently traveling around. They're looking, they have a thirst to find something new, discover what's in their backyard, and really immerse themselves into something they can't do in their day-to-day lives. So our job is to build awareness of all of that. And to generate that interest and spark that interest all the way through to the booking stage with you guys. And like I said, our job is to generate the leads directly to you, and that is managed through all of our click outs directly through to your websites, which again, I know Catherine touched on this, but super important to have your websites and all of your bookable links directly through to your tours or your specific services. What's really important and something that I find very useful is flipping the thought process to how are the consumers finding me? How are they finding us? What is their journey to make that bookable process as smooth and as streamlined as possible? So the services that Catherine touched on, if you have a tour service and it is specifically for a wine tour, you need that link to go to the wine tour page where they can book that directly as opposed to the home page. So really just thinking about the consumer journey, what path are they taking and how can you reduce the friction points throughout that. So that will then help us to generate leads directly through to you, because what we don't want is to push them out to your websites and then they are finding it tricky or difficult to actually finalize that process of booking with you. All right, our 5 brand pillars. Natural therapy, wildlife encounters, accessible provenance, boutique capital, and loves a party. In an always on capacity, we are continually running our digital presence. Everything that we do is aligned to these 5 brand pillars, and everything that we do, our first point of contact is the ATDW. A really great example at the moment is our Great State Duchess. We have recently just announced that the 3rd one is going ahead. And what we do is we look at our ATW listings and we look at the operators within that we can then use and communicate to make these campaigns successful. Like I said, we do this through our 5 brand pillars. I have popped them up on the screen there so you can have a little bit of a read. But those operators that are engaged, which you guys, you've registered today, and making sure that your ATW listings are the best that they possibly can be and align really naturally with our brand pillars. These brand pillars have been identified because they are what make South Australia unique, and they are a draw card to get people visiting to South Australia, particularly with COVID and having people in lockdown. We're finding that people are wanting to get outdoors. They're wanting to reconnect with nature. So activities such as walking trails or going down to the beach or getting outside and having the opportunity to reconnect is really resonating highly at the moment. So all of that activity is driven through our natural therapy brand pillar. Wildlife encounters. South Australia is very unique, and what we are known for, particularly our sea lions, shark cage diving. You can swim with dolphins, you can go for hikes and see kangaroos, all of these amazing things, and that's what makes South Australia very unique. Accessible provenance. We are absolutely spoilt for choice when it comes to food, drinks, wine, gin, spirits alike. We have so much on our back door, and we are absolutely thrilled to be able to showcase that to the rest of Australia, but also the rest of the world, and we do that through our accessible provenance brand pillar. Boutique capital, Adelaide City. There is so much to see and do. The nightlife, it's incredible, and we've got everything from, you know, heading down to the beach all the way through to then going out to the hills. And loves a party. We find that, you know, we do have Mad March, but we have so much going on throughout the rest of the year that it's not just a month, but it is an entire calendar, and we celebrate that through our Loves a Party. So for operators that have tours or experiences or any tourism operator product that aligns really well and has an up-to-date ATW listing and is in regular engagement with us, we find that they align super naturally, and that allows us to really pull on that and lean on that when it comes to our campaigns. Something that we can't recommend highly enough is making sure that you are continually in touch with us. So if you release a new tour, or if you have an event coming up, and you think it would be of interest to us, please just send us an email and say, hey guys, letting you know we've just released this new tour, or we've got this event coming up. And within that email, share your media kit with us, share your marketing strategy. If you've got your hero image, share that with us. If you are open to any opportunities from a PR perspective, just keep the lines of communication open, because that keeps you guys front and top of mind. Touching on images, we do have our SATC media gallery. April's details are on the screen. She is the best contact, and we will send this out in the email following. We do have a database full of images where our content and digital team has gone out and either produced or taken shots of your products, or in your region or in your areas. And that is available to you free of charge. You can set up an account, it is free, and then you can access these images. April, as I said, is the best contact for that, and you'll be able to get in touch with her if this is of interest. You can use them for your ATW listing as well. Or equally, if you have a photographer that is coming out to you and is doing a shoot, or you have a videographer and you're happy to share those images or that content with us, please get in touch with April and share that, and we can pop that onto our media gallery. Again, if we're running campaigns, the media gallery is also the first place that we look in terms of what imagery do we have available to us. Sometimes our timelines are quite short, and so when we're having to follow up with operators directly, it can make it a little bit tricky. So if we do have that imagery there ready to go, it just helps to streamline that process. All right, this session was around ATDW, so hopefully we've been able to answer all of your questions. We will touch quickly on what else you can do. All right, so Google My Business. This again is free to you. It's just a matter of going on and claiming your listing. All right, information such as phone numbers, website details, address. It is incredible how many people are actually searching when they're in the car and they're on the way to a location, and they're just wanting to check that you're open, or that they're going the right way. So it's super important to have this information up to date, so that they can have that information firsthand. Google My Business, there is actually some sessions at the moment through Google, and we will include this information in the email that we send out as well. The last session, which was last week, covered off Google My Business, but really how you can leverage the functionality within that as well. So updating photos, putting your events on there, all of that. So we'll pop that into the email as well. If you haven't already, definitely look at setting up Google Analytics. It might be worthwhile touching base with someone. I know that those that are in attendance today, there are some that are smaller business, some that are medium, some that are large. Either way, it can always be a little bit of a stretch with staff. So if you can outsource anything, always recommend having a conversation, at least to find out what your options are. Google Analytics is free. And it is a good source to understand what kind of customers are coming to your website, where they're coming from, so you can also see the referral of what SATC is in terms of how many people we are referring directly through to your website. It is always good to understand, if you're undertaking any marketing activity, the impact that it's having. So you can use a UTM link to identify exactly what marketing activity is generating the most traffic for you. That information is important, so that if you find that an email communication is resonating more highly than doing a social media post, then you might channel your energy into looking at how you can set up a regular email communication with your database. So by having that UTM link on there, you can track all of that information. So again, that's something that you can potentially outsource, and we will pop another link into the email that we will send you after. So I've touched on Google My Business and Google Analytics, and I have touched on briefly the consumer journey. We cannot stress enough that taking a step back and looking at it from the consumer and the path that they take from being inspired and being interested all the way through to the booking process. So think about the landing pages, think about your book now buttons, think about the number of clicks that they have to achieve before they can actually book with you. Quick example is I went away on the weekend and I really wanted to go to this location. I was trying to book because I understand that food and drink locations now you need to book ahead. And they had an online booking system and it wasn't working. It wasn't bringing up the calendar. Then I was like, okay, I'll ring them. I could not find their phone number. I had to search about 5 different locations before I could find a phone number and ring them to then find out that they were booked out. So making sure that that information is accessible, making sure that that consumer journey is as streamlined as possible. Probably a little bit more persistent than some. Most people would have dropped off by then and looked for somewhere else to book. So just thinking about the consumer and what are the challenges that they face and how can we make it as easy as possible to book with you. And if you're happy to, if you have got your analytics all sorted, feel free to share it with us. That information is fantastic. Part of our website and driving leads to you is, unfortunately, that's where our tracking information stops. So we know how many leads go out to you, but we don't know the activity that is happening once they leave our website. We're also happy to have a conversation with you afterwards if this might be of interest in terms of tracking people via that process. But at a minimum, if you've got some Google Analytics, feel free to share that with us.
Jen, did you just want to touch on for a moment? So we did actually have specifically a question around how many referrals we get from our ATDW listing and how they can actually find out that information.
Yeah,
Did you just want to summarise that?
Yeah, so this year we have already achieved, this financial year, just confirming, we have already achieved almost 2,500 leads directly through to operators. If this is something that is of interest to you specifically, feel free to send us an email, and the email that we send out at the end of this session will have our contact details. So feel free to send us an email and we're happy to have that conversation with you. Catherine, was there any more questions that have just come through, or you guys, if you have any questions that we haven't answered, feel free to jump it into the question box and we'll quickly answer those.
Yes, we'll quickly answer whatever questions are in there. Otherwise, we will just pop up on the screen now just our contact details as well. So we do have the corporate website up there as well as our consumer facing website, and then both Jenna's and my contact details. So please do reach out to us if you need.
Okay, so we've just got a question around vouchers. I heard about the voucher options for customers. How does this work? I'm not sure if this is referring to Great State Voucher or if this is the deals and offers. So I'll touch on the deals and offers. This functionality was released at the end of last year by ATDW. So if you have a package or a discount or a special offer, it's good to look at when you need to increase visitation. So for example, if you're an accommodation provider and you find that you're booking out on the weekend, but you need to drive visitation during the week, you might look at doing a discount. So book 2 nights and save 10%. This is something that you can drive through the deals and offers functionality on ATDW. Catherine showed a few slides around how that will present onto southaustralia.com. So we do have the deals and offers page, and then we do a featured carousel around that as well as a couple of other pages to help drive that traffic. It's really important, as Catherine mentioned, we are piloting on Kangaroo Island and Adelaide destination pages at the moment, a deals and offers dedicated page. What we need to see though is tourism operators taking up this functionality so that we can see regular deals and offers coming through, and that'll determine and warrant whether we roll that out onto all of the regions on those destination pages. So hopefully that's answered the question. If not, feel free to jump another question in. Excellent, and we've kind of touched on referrals. There's one more that's just come in. How long does it take to be reviewed? So a listing can be submitted, like we said, and make as many of the changes and updates that you need to prior to hitting review. What that does is then comes through to us. It takes 3 to 5 business days. We have been quite on the ball lately, so we have been turning those around in kind of 1 to 2 days. But at any one time with people updating their listings, there's quite a few, but always it'll be completed within 5 business days.
You do find that because a big thing to consider is other businesses also updating their listings. So, you know, there are thousands of listings in South Australia. So if, for example, you're updating your listing in a really high seasonality of updates with listings, then it can increase the review time. So that's why it can take up to 5 business days, so just make sure there's a lot of lead time. We do also recommend making sure that you are regularly updating your ATDW listing as well, so not doing it. So there is a minimum of once a year that you need to update it, but try to update it every 6 months, maybe every 3 months. Do it with the quarters. You know, you always find that as seasons changes, so do a few things within your business. So yeah, make sure that you're keeping that information current and, you know, rotating your photos, adding new photos, etc.
Yeah, perfect. I think if there's anything to take out of this session is that a lot of conversations that we have with operators is that ATW is often on their checklist, but it can often fall down the priority list. But by taking 20, 30 minutes and popping that aside, the opportunity to amplify your message and get your business out there, and the return on investment is absolutely huge. So if we can recommend anything, it's one, thank you for being committed and attending, but now taking half an hour to just go through and review your listings and getting those submitted and directly through to us. That's something that we'll be looking at today, and we'll also send out the information email as well. That'll have our contact details. So if you do have any other questions that aren't answered on our corporate website through our FAQs and our guides, you are more than welcome to email us or give us a call, and we're happy to step that through with you. Wonderful. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Thank you to those that had their questions and submitted them. And we look forward to seeing your listings come through.